Hello, happy Sunday. I was waiting for Eddie to push the button. I just want to say, I hope you're having a fantastic Sunday because today, outside in Louisiana for a very short period of time, and I'm embracing this well, the weather is cool outside. I actually can wear a long sleeve shirt. I know this is really important to the housing market, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. The biggest risk to the housing market right now. There was an article that recently came out by Housing Wire, and I would put the article on the screen, except for it's a paid service. So I wanted you to be able to actually read the other article that was basically kind of like complimenting the original article. So this was the one that was actually paid. It was the biggest risk to the housing market right now. And then the a Santa Fe publisher went ahead and put out their own article talking about the biggest risk to the housing market right now. And I have one of my bestest, goodest, most fantastic real estate experts who you guys absolutely adore as much as I do. And that is Jason Walter. And he's going to come up here right now and he's going to be talking about the housing market with you.
Hey.
Now, at any time during the stream, as Jason and I are talking, you can put up your real estate questions. Just make sure at the beginning of your question, just write the word question. So the moderator, Eddie, the producer in the background, can put your question up on the screen and Jason and I can answer it. And Jason, how the heck are you today?
I'm doing amazing. The weather here also has cooled off too. We're like low of like 50 degrees, high of like around 75. It's like perfect. I love this time of year.
We were in
How
the
are you
same
today?
color shirt. Look.
Yeah. I never wear a black shirt on my channel. Never.
Like you should have colored your hair purple.
No, I went for the gray look instead, actually.
I normally am gray, but no lie, like totally off the housing market conversation. But I just wanted to say that I was doing my nails, forgot about my hair color, and I left it for almost 2 hours. When I took it off, I went, "Oops, it's purple now." Oh well, it's Halloween. People were like, "Are you doing that for Halloween?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that's it."
Definitely, yeah, absolutely, for sure, definitely.
I can pull off purple,
That's too
whatever.
funny. It looks great.
Too funny. So in this article, they're basically saying how incredibly crazy it is that all these people have come out with these videos, including myself, about a housing crash. And at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of us came out with these videos because of the fact that the Fed really hadn't stepped in with with any kind of help for homeowners that were losing their jobs. The jobs market was kind of crazy. There was a lot of layoffs at that time. So of course we were talking about a housing crash because that's what the writing on the wall was at that specific time. Now, the tides have churned. The federal government has stepped in quite a bit on several occasions, not once, not twice, like 8 times. It feels like with the fact that they've given people the ability for forbearance. Some mortgage lenders that even have given forbearance indefinitely. They haven't even cut off a line yet. Now the federal government says, the line has ended, but if your individual lender wants to go ahead and extend that, that's up on them. And so and then people were concerned, and rightfully so, there were so many people that had the rental moratoriums. But we've come to find out over time, even though there was these rental moratoriums and there was a small fraction of landlords that were affected by this, a lot of them were able to recoup it, and a lot of them found other ways to remove their renters from that particular building for other reasons, not just because they hadn't paid their rent. Now, I will say some renters took advantage of that and destroyed property, and they were still working under the table. And of course, there's all these sorts of stories and everything. But for the most part, I would say that it was a successful program for people that were low income, because it really did affect the most people that were low income that lost their jobs. So,
yep.
With that being said, what is your opinion about this article that came out by the Santa Fe Beautiful Homes? And what do you have to say about it?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, Mr. Jason Walter. Everybody loves you. You're the favorite. Unlike I'm really the co-host. I just happen to have the name on the channel. Right. They love you more.
First of all, thank you for having my channel on your channel again. I absolutely love these. So answering people's questions, talking about real estate. That's what I like doing on my free time. So yeah, the article here, I kind of like glanced through it. They're talking about how there's not going to be a housing market crash, more of like affordability issue. But they also talked about how maybe the stock market that could impact maybe the market. Increase of rates could impact the market as well. But they also talked about how low housing inventory is. And that's really why home prices are so high, right? Inventory has been so low and rates dropped to near record lows. And that's what drove up home prices really. And so we're not seeing a really big increase of inventory as of yet. Fairly significant ever since January, but not enough to really cause an impact on the housing market. And so, yeah, time will tell. I wish I had a crystal ball what's going to happen, but I foresee that we're going to see more and more of an affordability issue as rates increase next year.
Yeah, so the Fed came out like a week or two ago, just basically saying that they're not going to increase the interest rates across the board exponentially. You know, like they're not going to. It's going to be small increments, but they're going to keep them low for quite a while. We're going to looking into 2022 is what he said.
Yeah, like
the other thing,
quarter or last half or something like that. Yeah,
right, fourth quarter, exactly, last half, exactly. And then he said, and then the other thing is that we had a housing shortage prior to the pandemonium. That housing shortage has always been a problem. And I highlighted it before all of this happened to the world. Now that problem has even gotten worse because even if home builders right now wanted to build a bunch of houses, they really have a problem because we have supply chain issues. Now, this has been the hot topic button for everybody right now. It's all over the national news. Of course, we have supply chain issues, but I've been highlighting that problem for almost a year now, because I talked to people that live in California. They said that those ships have been sitting there, one right after another, waiting for people to, unload these. Here's the thing. It's like nobody wants to. There isn't one entity that's a problem. So, there's people that work at the shipyard, they stack them up, and then they have to have people come pick them up. Well, the truck drivers are sitting there. They're like, we're waiting to pick them up. There's some miscommunication throughout the whole thing. And you can't point one finger to anybody that it's their problem. There is a problem throughout every system that needs to be addressed. It's unloading, it's docking, it's where do you put this stuff in? It's the people that are supposed to take it across the country. So I love that when I watch these newscasts, they're like, well, it's the truckers' problem. We don't have enough truckers. And the truckers are like, we're sitting here like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm here. Like, put it on the back here. And then they're like, well, no, it's the people that unloaded off the ships. And they're like, we're sitting around waiting for you guys to dock up. What are you talking about? So it's like and of course, it's a little bit of everybody. It's not just one person's problem, one entity's problem.
If it was one person's problem, that'd be a big problem. You wouldn't want to be that person.
No, but yeah. They all love to point fingers because no one wants to take responsibility. But I think it's a little bit of everybody's problem,
Yeah, for sure. Especially with the building houses too, because it's been on the news that prices for wood have gone down drastically, right? But there's so many other things that go into a house other than just wood. And those things, other building materials have skyrocketed ever since January. And so that's why we're seeing more builders who are basically pouring concrete foundations and then not really continue on to building the house. So the number of houses that are authorized, meaning that they're authorized to build a house, but they haven't started construction, those numbers keep on going up. I think they're up like almost 50% compared to 1 year ago, whereas housing starts are only up just a little bit compared to 1 year ago. And so it's a big issue with home builders who are like, okay, I have this dirt lot and I want to sell it, but I don't know how much it's going to cost to build it. It's going to take me like 4 to 6 months or maybe longer, and they're not going to know how much it's really going to cost to build. And so with labor shortages and supply chain issues, it's a big problem.
Do you know, I talked to a builder and he told me the reason why they keep pouring as many foundations as possible is because of the supplies that they have now is piping and concrete. And they know that the concrete prices are going to go up the roof. So they pour as many as they can and waiting. It will be fine. Like actually sitting out and letting the rain hit it will help cure the cement better. Honestly, it's actually a good thing that they allow these pads to cure as long as they do before they start building the house. But they're doing that because they know that the price of concrete is going to go really high. So they're doing it now while they have it. So they're just pouring
might as
them out.
well. Yeah.
I think it was pretty smart.
When other prices go down, they can start building some houses to help some home buyers out there.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that that this I highlighted this a few times. The CEO of Redfin said that that there hasn't been as many houses on the market because the people that work as subcontractors for home builders are smoking dope and they don't have time to. They're too lazy. They're just smoking.
Okay, so let me make sure understand where everyone understands the issue. Why we don't have as many new houses is because of marijuana.
Yeah, no, that's what he said. He said they're just sitting around
I just want to
smoking
make sure I
dope.
understand that. Yeah, okay, all right.
Nobody wants to work and they're just smoking dope. And I'm like, hey, buddy, how about you pay them? I bet if you paid them more money, they probably show up. But you're trying to get and I get it, you're trying to get the cheapest labor. But what happens when you get cheap labor?
Apparently they like dope. I don't know.
But but the other thing too is that some of these track builders, I won't name names, but some of them have initials in their name. They have been doing like really bad types of wood, like that I phrased that really crappy, but it's basically like a 2x4 that's connected together. They're just not. It's like
wow.
And they're using that in the like.
Rather than 2x4s are doing that, really?
Yes. Wow. Yes, he's a construction worker, right? And he was going through this house. He's like, do not buy, one of these houses. He goes, I'm here and this is what we're supposed to do. He's like, they're too far apart. And he said, look, they're pieces of wood put together. They're not even a full 2x4. He said, and this is a load bearing wall. He's like, these houses are going to fall apart in a couple of years. And he's like, how are they passing inspection? And I'm like, I don't know. But he never said the name, but he turned the camera like this. And you saw on the wall who the company was. I was like,
ooh,
whoops.
That's bad.
Just know that if you're looking at a home and it has initials in the name, just really look at those walls. Have that inspector really double check.
Yeah, tear out the drywall. That's probably what we should do and just inspect what the wood looks like, right? It's like that's a bad thing with that. You would never know as a home buyer, right?
Right. I'm gonna
do as many home inspections as you want, but you'll never know what the wood looks like.
Hey Eddie, if you could, I sent you that via a text, that video. See if you can pull it up because it is wild. If not, I'm gonna actually like stick it on here. He'll be able to pull it up. It's called it's Doubting Thomas on TikTok is the account. I'm gonna have him pull this out because
of course it's on TikTok.
Well, but he's like literally walking through the house, and like everybody's so immediate on TikTok, and my algorithm always is pulling up bad housing stuff.
Are you on TikTok?
I'm okay. So everybody, I'm going to tell you a secret. I have a TikTok account. I haven't really done much with it. I'm just kind of goofy on it. But I also have a secret TikTok account that I actually blew up to like over 130,000 followers.
Wow.
But I'm not me. I'm a character. I'm a character. I'm a character. So it's not really like me.
That's too funny.
Oh, here he is. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can see it. You see these, you see the 2x4s, they're pieces of wood. You see, like, they're just little, you can see the little dots right there.
Load-bearing wall.
Is that a garage?
Yeah.
You have 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no
4,
way.
5, 6 joints in it.
What?
How is this even legal? This is garbage. And they're all like this. Every single one. People think they're buying a brand new house built with lumber. It's all scrap wood. This shouldn't honestly be legal. Something has to be done about this.
All right, so I don't know if Eddie showed the beginning, but you can see who the company is. You can find out for yourself. I'm not saying them out loud because I don't want to be. But crazy. I mean, yeah, he was going through the houses and he saw that. That is not right, and that was a load-bearing wall. You can't use lumber like that. That's not lumber.
I've never seen that before. You usually just have like regular, like, I don't know if they're 2x4s or what, but I mean, they're all just like one piece of wood, which is similar. I don't know.
I'm not a contractor. Yeah, you're not a contractor, but I mean, like, we don't have to be contractors to know that you can't use wood like that on load-bearing walls. I mean, I mean, common sense tells you that.
That's really, really bad. Do you know what area that was in? What state?
I didn't really investigate
Yeah.
any further than I
Interesting.
could see it was new construction. It obviously wasn't fake. It wasn't like
Right.
doctored up video. He was literally walking through, and you could see the that paper that's on the outside, the house wrap around it, and it
Okay.
has the
Yeah.
name of the housing
The
company, which
builder.
it didn't surprise me once I saw the name that was on there.
I have an idea about who it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
They don't
quite
have a
sure.
medical degree. They have a builder's license.
That's too funny. Oh,
Fill in the blanks, everybody. Fill in the blanks.
yeah, right. I mean, geez, I mean, if the builders could be that maybe cutting corners, if they're looking at, hey, like a piece of 2x4, whatever is, way expensive, then I can buy this other piece of wood that I can like piece together, or it's already pieced together for me. It's half the price, and maybe I can save some money here. I don't know.
Yeah, but you're building a house on a
I know.
load-bearing wall. You can't do that.
I agree
What
with
is
you.
wrong with people?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh.
man.
If you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to throw them up on the screen, and Jason and I will talk about it. But the biggest problem that Jason and I both talk about quite often is there's going to be an affordability crisis, and that is the part that all of us need to be paying attention to. But I'm going to also on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that. Question: in California, a small old rundown house can run $500,000. Insane. No one can afford that. How can that continue? And that is right. Be selfless. That is correct. That is correct. I don't understand. And they're not even addressing it. Do you know what? This is no joke. So they came out with a plan by the Biden administration, and it was brought up by the housing administration, and they're going to revitalize 50,000 homes a year. 50,000 homes a year. 50,000 homes. That's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket. And they're going to do that over 10 years. Oh, congrats. I mean, you get a little
Over
pat on
10
the back.
years?
Oh,
I almost spit my water out.
Yeah, 50,000 houses a year over 10 years. That's
for everyone who's listening. There's like 1.3 million houses for sale as of the end of August in the entire U.S. So what's 56,000 houses going to be doing over the next 10 years? That's crazy.
I know.
Sorry,
No, you can totally interrupt me. And then they, the thing is that the Fannie Mae had come out with their statistics, and there's a shortage of 3.17 million houses that need to be for people. Like they know there's a housing shortage, and they're saying 3.17 million homes need to be to make the market fair for everybody. So there is more affordable houses, because they say it's not necessarily that homes are unaffordable. There just isn't enough homes on the market to flatten out the market enough. So we do have affordable houses, because if you have more houses on the market, then you would have more balanced housing market. And it's not balanced. It's like right now, it's like there's the haves and have nots, and that widening is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not even helping for people that are trying to rent, because what are you going to do? Like a lot of these people know that you're in a rock and a hard place. So they're like, well, you know what? You can't afford a house. Well, I'm going to jack up the rent. And so it's like, you're almost like maybe $100 off from renting into owning.
Big issue. Yeah. And it's frustrating
frustrating.
too, is that like some of the ideas that came about that never became bills, but they're like ideas that they could vote on, but never did, was like all the new home buyer, first time home buyer credits they're going to be giving out. So I would imagine first time home buyers hear that and go, oh, that's awesome, because I can buy a house and then my closing costs are going to be less. But like the reality is that we don't have like a demand problem. We have a housing inventory problem. And so if you suggest, hey, here's going to be a credit for you to buy a house, that's only going to further increase housing demand. It's going to do nothing.
It's going to increase the price.
Yes. It's like, it just blows my mind. It's stupidity at its finest. But
because even when the housing crash happened the last time, so they did come out with this buyers program for first-time home buyers who were buying the smallest homes, the smallest of those houses, the ones on the low end of the scale of cost. And during that time when they came out with that buyer's incentive, those houses increased in price. You couldn't find one anywhere. It's like, oh my gosh, like instantaneously overnight when people got that credit, then those prices for those smaller homes went up. And
That's all
then
baked in.
well, and then like I said, just like always, they always want to point fingers at certain people or aspects. And now the newest one, which is pretty disgusting, is they're trying to blame baby boomers because they're retiring in place. And that normally baby boomers would have retired and moved to Florida and, like buy their own, dream house there, but they're deciding to retire in place. So it's their fault. There isn't
It's definitely
enough
their fault.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
what who comes up with this stuff? Like nobody wants to take responsibility in the fact that it's all down to really one issue. We just need enough homes on the market, and they haven't built enough smaller homes to go on the market. Cause I don't know about you, even if they had like a bunch of, let's just say they had tons of big mansions, I still don't want to live in a big mansion. I want to live in a smaller house when I first start off. I don't know what this whole thing about living, like living in a house. I don't even understand how to do that. So if they did that, made more smaller communities like they did after World War II, I've talked about it 1,000 times, but they could do that, and they could do it quickly if they did it like they did before, which was they made a lot of those houses and pieces of those houses in a factory, and they just brought them in and just plopped them on each lot. Like I said, pouring the concrete ahead of time and just plopping those not manufactured, but they're made in manufactured plants, but they are a modular home. They're built to the same specifications as a regular house.
Yeah.
And they could just plop those in place, little houses on little lots. People that are younger, just starting out, or even somebody that's older and, wants to retire and downsize, those houses would sell like hotcakes.
They really would. But the reality is that the builders are not going to be building small houses because they can make so much more money by building larger houses and selling for more money, right? That's the issue.
But you incentivize them. You give them the land.
You have to, definitely.
Yeah. You can incentivize them. You can incentivize them with cheaper material, or you can incentivize them by giving them cheap land. And the federal government owns a lot of land that's just sitting there rotting. Like you can drive around and you'll be like, who owns that? And you find out it's the federal government. And you're like, why don't they do something with that? So,
Right.
And it's not like wetlands or anything that's like a preserved land. It's just
on a volcano. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, dirt that they own. So, and even some like old buildings that have been sitting there, you'll find out that the federal government owns those too, or your local government might own a building that's just sitting there rotting.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of state buildings in Sacramento, for example, that a lot of the employees just work from home now. And so they have like lots of vacancies.
Yeah. Why don't they just turn that into affordable housing options? Condos, people could purchase those.
Yeah.
They could get us on the team, man. Like we would get everybody into a house. Boiled Nut says, question, is Sacramento seeing a sizable influx of buyers from San Francisco?
Yes, Boiled Nuts. Thanks for your question. I am a realtor in the Sacramento area, and absolutely. So my channel started as like what it's like to live in Sacramento, and to get a lot of people that reach out to me about buying a house here. And I personally helped a lot of people from the Bay Area move here, not just San Francisco, but San Jose, Livermore, just all around the Bay Area. But yeah, San Francisco for sure. And these are people who have the opportunity to work from home now. So they have a studio apartment in San Francisco paying, God knows what, like $5,000 a month or something crazy. And then they buy this amazing house in greater Sacramento area, and their housing payment sometimes goes down. And they sometimes are able to keep the same wage they had in the Bay Area. So yeah, we're seeing a sizable influx. I don't know how much it's actually affecting our housing market. There's no stats around that, but it's definitely is affecting our market by people moving from more expensive areas to a relatively more affordable area like Sacramento.
I didn't know that Sacramento was more affordable
than San Francisco. Yeah. So like in San Francisco, I think the median single family home is like $2 million. It's totally nuts. And like just south of there, it's around like 2.1. In Sacramento, it's like 500 to 550,000.
So do you think
reducing your payment quite a bit?
So like a house, like remember they had on Full House? Did you ever see that show when you were a kid, Full House?
Yes, when I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, so a house like that would probably be like what, 4 or 5 million there?
Actually, that's one, I think now I remember, that's one of those painted ladies, I think, in San Francisco, right? So one of those houses actually just closed escrow last year. It was a house that needed a ton of work. I can't remember how much they paid for it. I want to say like $2 million or something like that. But it's one of the most famous houses in San Francisco. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, in the Bay Area, it's very, very expensive. So we are seeing more people moving here, but they're also moving to like Utah and Idaho and Austin, Texas, for example.
Austin, Texas, man. That is one insane housing market. I
Yeah.
just caught this one,
Don't you
caught my
wish you-
eye
Okay, go
real
ahead.
quick. It says, Kristina, be patient. Those small, rapid build affordable houses are coming to Louisiana very soon. If you have some inside information on this, I would love for you to share that with me. You can email me at info@KristinaSmallhorn.com because I am unaware of this. So that would be really awesome, especially in our area. We need affordable homes big time, big time. You know, if you get a house, like our price point here, our average, it used to be when I first moved here, it was like about 150 to 175,000 for a, like, you know, a decent, nice house, you know, a starter home. Median was there. And now we're like almost at 300,000. So that's a big giant increase for people around here. And it's impossible. Whenever you see a house that's under 200,000, it's selling. It's or under 300,000, it's selling.
Yeah, that's a problem because home prices have increased so much more than wage growth, right? And that's the whole affordability problem.
That is the biggest problem. And it's like the increase in houses is like, you know, like 25% in comparison to the 6% that they have increased in wages. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep.
Where are you on this debate? They say we need housing in California, and I see lots being built, no infrastructure, water, schools, roads. We are in the worst drought in California. So I know this is something that also has hit Utah as well. My feeling on it is that you can't have a house if you don't have the infrastructure. That's great, you have a building, but you can't have like everybody trying to, you know, drink from a garden hose in order to. It's like it's pointless. It's like you can't put the horse before the cart, is what they say. You know?
Something like that.
Yeah, so they have to go ahead and they're going to have to address that. But that's one of those things you need to vote. Like you really need to vote for the right people that know what the heck they're doing. And that's becoming more and more difficult to find the right people. But if you have anybody in your planning and zoning in that area, see what they're doing to address it. That's how I feel about it. What do you say, my friend?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of housing being built in the greater Sacramento area still. And so like, for example, there's like 10,000 plus houses that are being built about, 20 minutes away from me in Folsom. And what I was going to get at is that basically that you have a area where they're building a lot of houses. Usually they don't build a school first or, libraries first, parks first. They build the houses first, and then they build the infrastructure around that later. Obviously they have roads, but like schools, for example, oftentimes they do schools and retail space later. But that's why if you've seen the houses where they're being built and there's like nothing out there, you're like, what the heck is going on here? Typically they built those later after that people have actually moved in their houses.
Right. But we, like here in Louisiana, they'll just put up a housing development and the roads are literally garbage. Like we have worst roads. I think we're rated the actual worst in the country, but you can actually tell when you drive, like the minute you drive into Louisiana, it like your fillings start falling out. Because it goes from smooth and you're going, you're like, oh my gosh. And they're terrible. They're classically, historically terrible. And so around my little area, it exploded after Hurricane Katrina because we weren't affected here as much. And so this little area, because we have good public schools, grew exponentially. They started putting neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. And now that we've had this recent boom, they keep putting in all these neighborhoods, but they haven't addressed the roads and they're literally crumbling into the ditches. And they don't have like a sewer system like you would in other areas, like where you would have like drains that drain the water into a sewage system.
Why not?
No, they have a road and then they cut out the edges and that's where the water goes into. I'm not kidding. There's just a ditch on each side. So if you were to get in a car accident, your car is just going to go into a ditch. That's it. There's no like.
Strange. All right. I'm trying to hard time like visualizing what that would look like. Yeah, that's strange.
I know. Weird. When I moved here, I'm like, I felt like I was in a different country because I'm like, where's the sewer? Now the neighborhoods aren't like that. The neighborhoods that they put in, that's different. But the roads themselves, that's what they look like. They're just and they're crumbling. And every time we have a big rain, big giant potholes pop up, and And then
Oh,
if you
wow.
say anything, they're like, we're handling it. You can't say anything about that. Or you can't say anything about our water companies either, because, we're not a monopoly. And it's like, you are, because you have no choice. You have to use that water company, whatever. What about the gators? Somebody said, what about the gators? Well, in our area, we don't have a gator problem. They do it by the river. Question: are professionals in your industry worried about what will happen to the need for realtors if corporations keep buying houses? I'm not personally worried, because I've designed my my whole workflow to not be necessarily that I have to sell houses at all times. Where there's always going to be need for people that actually know how to buy and sell a house, whether that be, they change the industry and then we become consultants and they would pay for a consultant. The thing is that if anybody has ever bought and sold a house, that contract has a lot of legalese in it, a lot of legal terms. And the way it's written is kind of like, it doesn't represent one side more than the other side. What we fill in and on those blanks for you as representing you that's what you need a real estate agent for. Because even if you don't understand that contract, you could be writing things in those lines that really will mess you up if things go awry. So as a real estate agent, we understand these contracts and they change them every single year, just to throw people off. If you fill that out incorrectly, you could have yourself in a lot of trouble, especially if you're buying or selling a house, because you don't know. You might be, all of a sudden you think that you have this warranted piece of property, and then you find out that it wasn't warranted at all. It was only this little addition that they added onto it. So we know how to write those things specifically, so that way it represents you in the most fair way, and that way you're not getting the shaft at the end. What is your opinion about this, my friend?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And I think that, I'm not worried at all about corporations taking over the job of real estate agents. You're always going to need a professional who can just deliver what you just said, Kristina. The other side of it too is that the iBuyers are like such a small percentage of the overall market.
For now.
We do have, for now, yeah, maybe that will increase potentially. We have Open Door and Redfin. I think Zillow's buying houses in my area, for example, but their market share is still super low.
For now.
Yeah, for now. But who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? It's just hard to say. But of course, these corporations are trying to make it so it's so much easier for people to use iBuyers, for example. But I think that the value that most realtors provide, I'll say not all realtors, is that the expertise, right? Getting yourself in trouble. So if the time you really need a real estate agent is really when things get really sketchy with the contract, and then people are trying to back out and they're asking for a lot of money, all those things. So you can have a transaction with buying a house where it's so easy, there's no issues whatsoever. But the time when you really need a real estate agent who also can rely on their broker, and in my area, the California Association of Realtors, we have a legal team we can call. So when it gets really sticky and it gets really messy, I should say, you definitely need a real estate agent to help represent your best needs.
But I'm gonna like push back on yes, these corporation buyers are a small piece of the pie for now, but companies like Zillow, I'm going to use them as an example, said that they would never, ever, ever be in the business to sell houses. They specifically said that for years, since the conception.
They told all the people who are paying for leads, especially that, right?
Yeah, since the conception of their website, they specifically said that they were never going to be anything but a source for real estate agents. And we willingly gave them the information on every single one of our sales. Not only that, whenever they went up for sale, it was a way to advertise for your listing. So we were doing the right thing, because we knew that as many eyeballs getting onto your listing itself, it was the right thing to do to get it sold. The problem with that is they collected that data over all of these years. They have a lot of financial backers. You can see who the biggest players are in Zillow right now, who actually are the biggest donators and investors in Zillow, are also those big financial firms that say, we're only taking a very small piece of the pie. They're the same ones. So there's going to be a lot more corporate owned properties, and right now it's small. And they're trying to say, that's not us. We're not doing anything. Don't worry. Just like Zillow was never going to sell houses. It took years. It's slow and insidious, but I really honestly think that we're going to end up with a lot more corporate owned subdivisions, corporate owned neighborhoods, corporate owned apartment buildings, because it's an easy way to offset inflation. And it's a great thing to have on your books. Real estate is always one of those things you want in the books. It's some of the greatest minds will tell you that. So
yeah, I think we're talking about two different things though, too, because you're talking about corporations buying real estate and holding it and renting it. I was more referring to like corporations that buy it directly from the seller and then they sell it right after they purchase it. So,
yeah, but they hold them too, and then they manipulate the market.
Yeah, some of them do. Maybe so, but I think that for the iBuyer market, for like the people who are, let's just say Zillow, in Open Door, for example, they make their most money by purchasing it from the seller because they charge them 5 to 8% to buy the house. And so when they sell it on the open market, if they break even, like if they bought it for 500,000, if they sell it for 500,000, they're still making money because they're paying their listing agent such a small amount of fee. And of course, paying the buyer's agent fee as well, but they make their most money on the purchase, not on the sale. It's okay. We can have varying opinions. I'm totally fine with that.
I don't trust anything that has a corporation when it comes to real estate sales, because I like they have always, like, these big companies have always said, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. And then sure enough, later, you know, like you look back and they were totally 100% doing this. They just had the right way of writing things to make it seem not that way, you know? And then, you know, like this is, I don't know.
What blows my mind is that real estate agents still paying for leads on Zillow. Like, what are you thinking?
Eddie says, you want me to show the investors? Go ahead, show the investors in Zillow, Eddie.
Show the investors.
Yeah, show them who invests in Zillow, because you're gonna love this. Because I pulled this up. This is actually in my video I'm coming out on Tuesday.
Oh, cool.
I
haven't seen this list.
Yeah. Okay. Can you scoot in a little bit? Cause I'm having my 40-year-old eyes can't pull this up. Look at who the biggest investors in it: Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, ARK Investments, JP Morgan. I don't know some of these other ones, but look at the one right there. BlackRock Fund Advisors. BlackRock Fund Advisors. And everybody knows BlackRock is like, we're not doing anything wrong. We're just buying bad houses. We're buying bad houses and we're fixing them up. And I'm like, okay, well then that's gentrification. Oh, no, we're not doing that. Well, no. We're beautifying them. So you make your area look better. I'm like, that's gentrification. No. And they like, will sit there and just keep, you know, trying to squash your voice. But yeah, I don't trust them. I don't trust them, and no one else should either. They're not in it to make it easier for us, the regular guy trying to buy a house. That's for sure.
That is definitely true.
Question: do you think the more congestion you place in an area, i.e. Florida, the less quality of life you really have? Crime, infrastructure, inflation, income depreciation. What do you think? Because you live in an area that has probably more congestion, a lot more than I do. I have cows outside my house.
Cows outside your house? That's cool. I have squirrels mainly. So my area, I live in Sacramento. We have about 500,000 people live here, and like 1 million in the greater Sacramento area. And obviously we have more congestion, more traffic, but it's not really affecting like my quality of life. For example, I mean, I don't like commute to downtown, for example, to go to work. We have a lot of people who are working from home now. And then inflation, income depreciation. So yeah, I don't know if you have more people moving to a place, I don't know if that really means that you're going to have incomes going down. You would have to have more businesses coming in too. So it's a hard question to answer, but we have more congestion in the Sacramento area, but my quality of life hasn't gone down.
I think that would just depend on the area itself. Like, for instance, you know, like, how are they addressing crime? How is that area addressing crime? How are they addressing infrastructure? You know, you could have one city that's, you know, killing it, you know, like really addressing all of those issues, and it's fantastic. And they've grown exponentially. Then you can go to the next city, same kind of growth, but the infrastructure is crumbling and they're not addressing crime. So it really depends on again, who you're voting for. What side of the toast are they buttering? You know, are they buttering the side of the people, or are they buttering the side of their pockets? You're gonna have to figure that out. All right, here we go. Eddie's gonna throw up a question here. Jonathan Welcome says, if the seller accept my offer 2 hours after the time limit, can I go back without paying earnest money? Well, you don't have an offer. If you don't have an extension on the offer and the time is up, time is of the essence on a purchase agreement. And if they signed it 2 hours after the time that they were supposed to, it's just blank paper as far as I'm concerned. What is it in your area?
That's funny. So we get offers accepted after the time limit, like all the time. Like we'll like put like on the offer. We want to get a response back by tomorrow at 5 p.m. and they'll get back to us the next day at like 5 p.m. You still get a contract and it's still a ratified contract. But
how is it ratified if it's not in time?
I know
you
it's
can
weird,
fight that
right?
in a court of law. You can totally
might be able to potentially
100% because like we have no, because like you know, I'm not a lawyer, but I took a class.
She took a class, everyone.
Right. I took a class, and it was very similar to the situation that the question was on, is the fact that the seller was claiming that they wanted the earnest money. And the buyer was saying, no, you didn't sign when you were supposed to sign. You were supposed to sign at 12 o'clock. You signed at 2:30. This is not even a contract anymore. I get the earnest money back. That's my money. And it went back and forth. And it was like, the judge was like, you signed 2 hours late, buddy. Too bad. Out. It was instantaneous. It wasn't even a thought process. He wasted his money on a court appearance because it says specifically in the state of Louisiana. I don't know how it is in California, but it says time is of the essence. You have to meet that timeline, and if you don't. It's just paper. You just throw it in the trash. It's worthless.
So in Louisiana, how does that work when you get an offer accepted? Then when do you have to deliver the funds? You have title companies, right?
Yeah, we have 48 hours to deliver funds.
Okay, so we have 3 business days to do that. But I don't know if I don't know where the original question was, but if the person is, let's just say like in California, for example, you wrote an offer and the seller didn't accept it in time, then there's no deposit to worry about. You haven't placed the deposit yet, then you just back out and move on.
Yeah, right. You can let me just put it this way. You can also have an offer that goes in and you're having trouble getting it signed. The selling agent calls you up and says, hey, I know you have it for noon, but he's not going to get home off of work until 5 o'clock. He is going to sign it, but he isn't getting home until 5 o'clock. We have another form we have to fill out that specifically says, you know, now we're extending the offer until 5:30 p.m. And then all the parties have to sign it then, because it's literally worthless by the time that 1 second over, it's nothing. It's worthless piece of paper.
Interesting. It's probably a good thing to do.
Yeah. It gets you out a lot. That's why it's good to understand your contract and have a real estate agent that understands that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, especially when it comes to builder contracts, forget about it. Like 150 pages and trying to figure out like what protections I have as a home buyer. Like
I can make that contract super easy. There's not one line in it that protects you as a buyer when you're building a house.
So true, right? Yeah. I asked a builder one time recently, it's like, okay, we're in the contract. Do you have, it says my buyer's contingency or ways of backing out?
Sorry.
And they said there's no ways of backing out. They were actually were honest.
Sorry about that. I have dogs.
No problem.
And I don't know if Eddie has a picture of our cat. We just adopted a cat too, so I don't know why they're. Let me shut this. My gosh, okay. I'm so sorry, everybody. I work from home, obviously.
That's too funny. So what I was saying with everyone who's listening still, that my client went to a contract.
Dogs. Oh, now I pulled out my earplugs. Now I can't hear what you're saying. So you can say a bunch of like terrible things about me. I wouldn't even know it.
No, I was telling everyone some good jokes, and then we wait for you though.
Woof woof woof.
Yeah, just kidding.
All right, Jesse has a good question here. Why are people buying houses that are at a hugely hiked prices? Who can afford the prices? And shouldn't they expect the prices will eventually fall and they'll be in negative equity? What is your opinion about this?
So yeah, first thing about negative equity, what I'm personally seeing is that a lot of people are buying houses with 20% or more down, right? So if you have an FHA, you can do a 3.5% down, a VA 0%. But in my area, at least, I think around like 65% of the houses are selling for conventional loans, and a lot of people have at least 20% down. So it would take all the home prices to go down quite a bit in order to have a significant increase of people with negative equity. On top of that, in the US, around 25% of all sales are all cash. And so obviously they're not going to have any negative equity if they have all cash. And I missed the first part of the question. I'm sorry. But what do you think, Kristina?
Eddie can pull up that question again.
Thank you. And then
so
who can afford, and then who can afford people who are moving from more expensive areas, selling their houses, moving to more affordable areas, and also people who are cashing in on their stock.
I think places like Austin, Texas are going to have a real issue coming up. And because of right now, they have exploded exponentially with lots and lots of people from more expensive areas that have inflated that market. And the people that have lived there for eons, aren't making more money than they did, before this big influx. And if they're not currently in a home, they're probably completely priced out of the market, because you used to be able to buy a house, like what we consider like a starter home or a, downsized home for $200,000 just on the outskirts of Austin. That same house now is $400,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so we're not even going to know how this is going to play out for another probably 10 years. And the people that are probably going to be the most affected, it's not the millennials, it's the ones behind them. What is that? Gen at Y, Z, X, what? Not X, that's us. But they're going to be the ones that are really hit the hardest. And unless they address this affordability issue, it's going to be a real mess, because they're not going to have people that can work in their area because there's no affordable place to live. So they'll probably come up with some kind of apartment complex thing, which is terrible. people just living in apartments. But I always say I'm afraid that the United States is turning into a renter's nation. That is the problem. Alpha. There you go. Gen Z and Alpha. Those are the ones I worry about.
Yeah, I hear you. And I was actually just looking at what's really cool about Austin. They have the Austin Board of Realtors. If you Google it, actually just sent Eddie a link. They showed the housing stats. So they had the most recent stats is August. The median home sale price there is $470, but home prices are up 34% compared to 1 year ago. How insane is that?
That's the highest I've seen actually throughout the United States. I thought I'd seen 25% in some other areas. Let's see if Eddie can pull it up.
Yeah, and then the months of inventory is only 1 month. So all the houses would be sold in 1 month if there no new houses were going to be hit the market. But yeah, I think that the people are going to be affected most are the people that actually live there, have local jobs, because a lot of people are selling their $2 million houses and wherever and buying a house for all cash. And then maybe some people are have Bay Area wages or big city wages, but are living in Austin, Texas. So the people are being affected, I think, in my opinion, are the local people live there.
They're going to have to increase wages for people that live out there. I mean, you can't keep people at that price and expect them to be able to work those low end jobs and be able to live there. I mean, it's impossible. So
I bet the rents are super high too.
Yeah, the rents are wicked high. My brother lives in New York City, and he was gonna go out there. He's like, "What happened to the prices in Austin?" I'm like, "It's a growing place. You should have bought something years ago. You could have got it real cheap."
Yeah.
So my chair, everything was all off whack because of those dogs. I'm trying to get adjusted here. Sorry.
You're right.
Let's see if Eddie can pull this up. If he can, I can. Eddie, can you pull it up?
He said he can't do it, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm going to do it because I can do anything because I'm awesome.
You can do anything.
I can do anything. Are you going to sing for us? Check you out, my friend.
Oh, let me, I can send a different link.
Is this the link? Is this it?
Boom, there you go.
Yeah, look at me. I can do anything.
So right there, look at 34%. How nuts is that in 1 year? Actually, last time I looked was a couple of months ago, and it was 2%, something like that. It was over 40%.
Wow.
Nuts, huh?
And it's a cool city. Don't get me wrong. Austin is a cool city, and I'm not bashing Austin by any means of the imagination. It's just I can't imagine how it's going to be for people that work those lower end jobs trying to find an affordable house. They're gonna be driving an hour and a half just to get to work, and then is it worth it? I don't know. They're gonna have to work that out.
So it is a cool city, to say the least.
Oops. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, I just got booted off.
No. Eddie and I were clicking at the same time. I didn't know if his little computer wasn't working for him.
No
So,
worries.
Eddie, do you have another question to throw up for the screen for Jason and I? All right. Question. What are the statistics for the last 50 years on home ownership? Homes owned by families versus investors. Is inventory truly low because of lack of housing or investors taking homes off the market? I have an answer for this. Okay, so like starting in 1980, there was starting to be less and less homes being built. That number had increased, and I know this from the top of my head because I've researched it 18,000 times. At the beginning of the housing boom the last time, there was an explosion of new construction that went throughout the United States. You could see it in places like Las Vegas, in Florida, and even places around Texas. They had overbuilt for the area. They had overbuilt. So even condominiums in Miami, there were whole buildings that were left vacant because the housing market has crashed. They had overbuilt for the market. After that, home builders, the ones that stuck around, said they were not doing this. They know that they can sell let's just say they built 100 homes. They know that they can sell 100 homes. They probably could sell about 120 or 130 homes, but they're only going to build 100 homes because they're never going to turn into that situation that they had before where they had a bunch of vacant houses and they took a bath on those. So after that, they've said, I'm only building 100 houses a year. You cannot make me build more because it's going to put my company in jeopardy. Can't blame them for that. So since 2007, since the last housing crash, builders build less houses than they ever have in history. So what do you have to say about that, my friend?
Yeah, I agree. I think that you're spot on regarding that. And yeah, some builders even declared bankruptcy during the Great Recession because they built so many houses and then people weren't buying them too. And then the last part of the question was inventory truly very low because of lack of housing or investors taking homes off the market. So in my opinion, the lack of housing inventory is really like twofold. And that is because people are just not listing their houses for sale. So just regular people own their houses. And then number two is that we already had low inventory before, but then on top of that, since housing demand is so high, houses that are hitting the market are selling very quickly. I mean, look at the stats in Austin, Texas, days on the market is only 14 days, meaning when a person lists their house for sale, they accept an offer within 14 days. When compared to 1 year ago, that's down 30 days. So it means that 1 year ago, the days on the market was 45 days. Now it's 15 days. So that's the other reason why we see inventory being so low, is that because they're just being sold very quickly as well. So anything that hits the market typically sells very quickly in the US.
But one area I want, I'm trying to pull up the article. So one area that investors are really scooping up the most affordable houses is, I even pulled up home buyers face increased competition from investors. Atlanta, Georgia has had a 25% increase of investors buying all around Atlanta. And they have investors purchased 67,943 homes during the second quarter of 2021, the highest quarter figure on record. Redfin's records date back to the year 2000. One of 6 homes, 15.9% purchased during the second quarter this year was bought by an investor. Nearly the same as record market share of 16.1% in the first quarter of 2020. Investor purchases increased by 15.1% from the first quarter of 2021 and the second quarter of 2021. I'm telling you, these investors.
I don't know about that though. Like the 15.9% is not that big of a number though.
But they'd increased like in these hot markets. I'm telling you, it seems so small now. It seems so small now, but I'm telling you, over time, it's going to be like, wow, Zillow owns half of this neighborhood, or wow, BlackRock owns like 18 houses in this neighborhood. And then it's going to be more and more and more and more and more and more. I think the biggest plan for all of these corporations is for us to be a nation of renters. I'm sorry. I could be totally, let me get my tinfoil hat on kind of moment.
No, I think they would love that. I agree with you.
That's the whole idea. The whole idea, just to price it so high that only, your house is sponsored by Frito-Lay and you write your check out to Frito-Lay. I don't know. Like that.
Yeah,
I truly believe that in my deep in my soul. Because every time when you follow the money, you see who these other investors are of those investors. And it's always all these groups that are like, we're not doing anything. We're not. We only own this small piece. It's a little bit. You would have never even noticed. Never noticed. It's just fear mongering.
I hear you. I hear you.
I don't buy it. Kristina says no. Would a realtor not take BlackRock offer to sell to the actual buyer? No, that's not no. Like, here's the thing. If we get an offer from any corporation, doesn't matter. We have to present by law, and here in the state of Louisiana, I don't know how it is in California, but in the state of Louisiana, no matter who offers it, even if they offer a bubblegum wrapper, we must present all offers, no matter how good or bad they are or who they're from. And we can't discriminate from anything. It's just a piece of paper. Here's the numbers, and we hand it over to the seller. Now it's up to us as real estate agents to advise them, like, hey, this particular offer is offering you more money, but it's also giving you more liabilities because they're already requesting like $35,000 in repairs. Even though this number right here says $250,000 and your asking price was $200,000, they're still asking for $35,000 in repairs before you even started. So like we help them read the fine print in these, because we also know that other real estate agents are wise on how to fill these things out. So we go through them with like a fine tooth comb and then go over them with our sellers so they know which offer is the best. And most sellers are just taking the highest and best. Sometimes that happens to be big corporations like Zillow and BlackRock, and other times it doesn't happen to be. So
I'm personally seeing that. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, basically you have to provide the seller with, hey, here's the terms of each of the offers. What do you want to do, right? But for like Zillow, for example, they're going directly to, and other iBuyers, they go directly to the sellers. So it's not like a house that's listed on the market. They, have a bunch of marketing, and then they people reach out to them or whatever. So they're basically buying houses kind of off market. So, but BlackRock and maybe other investors, I'm sure, are doing it differently, where they're buying houses that are listed on the MLS.
Well, you wouldn't think like an investor might be working with a company like Zillow, do you? Do you think that they might be like buying these like before they hit the market? You wouldn't think that BlackRock might do that, do you? I mean, they are like number 9 on their
that's the ideal situation, right, for them.
Yeah, they wouldn't have any inside information on that, with them being the 9th highest investor in Zillow. That Zillow wouldn't share that information, would they? Kristina doesn't buy it. Kristina doesn't buy it. Question: in Orlando, living here, I used to live in Orlando, and working here isn't an option, which is direct result of people living here while not working here. Could this be limited or banned? Would that be right? Okay, so this is a really touchy subject for some people. So they should put in affordable housing options for people in high density areas. Now, when they've done it in the past, they've done it incorrectly, and they've put up inferior, terrible housing for people to live in so they could work in that area. And then of course those areas end up not doing very well, but it can be done right. There's plenty of resources for them to do it correctly. They can always put a building cap on certain areas. You can always take pieces of land and say, hey, this is, like, we can make this affordable housing options in this particular area. But again, it's all in how you vote. You have to see who you're voting for, who's looking out for you and what you need. And that's going to be, that's the only way you can really control what's going on. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big issue. I mean, you can't tell people that they have to get a local job. And so it's a really hard thing to even regulate, really. But I understand where she's coming from, because if you're in an area where you're seeing a lot of people moving from more expensive areas who are getting, high wages, and then home prices being inflated, but your wages haven't increased, then it becomes a really big issue. And so I think we're seeing that in areas that maybe like in Austin, Texas, maybe even Sacramento, for example, where maybe people have a lot of work at home jobs, and that's inflating the home prices. It's a big problem.
Well, I'm going to give you a perfect example. So right around Disney, because like in Orlando, there's Disney, and around Disney, around that area, I mean, those houses are pricey,
Are they really?
pricey.
No.
Oh yeah, they didn't used to be. Probably about 20 years ago, you could still, get a house, it was still more than some of the outskirt areas, but it wasn't so bad. But now it's
Hmm.
like, whoa. And like all that, there's an area called Celebration, and those houses are like, you gotta have some deep pockets to be able to afford there. But then so you have Disney right there, and iDrive. All the people that work there, those are people aren't making $100,000, $200,000 a year
Right.
to be able to afford to live there. I mean, a lot of them are working minimum wage or just above minimum wage jobs, so they have to come in. So what their solution is to come up with affordable apartment buildings throughout the area, and that was Orlando's solution to it. I think the ones around Disney are gated and they're kept up and they're pretty nice. But if you get further out with the more affordable apartments, they need some addressing. Eddie and I lived in what they called tax credit housing. So you couldn't make X amount of money. So they called it tax credit housing. You still paid rent and everything else, but it was a lot cheaper than the rest of it. So that was our very first apartment. And they did not keep that up. It was loaded with wood destroying insects, and it was horrible. And I came home from work one day and I'm like, what is dripping on me? What is this? And I flick on the light, and the ceiling was covered in carpenter ants, and they were dripping off the ceiling.
What?
And I was trying to, and I had signed a year lease, and I was trying to get out of it. And I kept saying there was a smell of mold. I even had the state come out and saying there was mold in the house. And then those carpenter ants came in, and I was like, I'm getting out of my lease. They're like, yeah, you can get out. We won't punish you. I'm like, thanks.
So nice of them.
I know, but that's called tax credit housing, and they have that in Florida. I don't know if that's a thing in your area.
I haven't heard that. No, I know Disneyland owns like a ton, or Disney World owns a ton of land around their amusement park, though.
Mm-hmm. Eddie says it keeps spinning.
Oh, he was talking about that was with the Austin website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what type of dog do you have, Kristina?
Yeah.
I have 3. Totally off housing, but yeah, I have 3 dogs. I have
what kind of dogs?
They're all mutts except for one. One was a Pomeranian, but the other 2. Oops, I didn't mean to do that.
Are you on TikTok right now, Kristina?
No,
come on.
I'm pulling up I'm trying to pull up a picture of my cat, because I just adopted a cat. It's a 3-year-old cat. I don't know if you can see him. Can you see him? Oh yeah, he is a handsome man. Yeah. So the owner passed away during Hurricane Ida, and he's a 3-year-old cat, and I've never had a cat before, and now I have a cat, and I'm a cat owner, and I'm obsessed with his toe beans. I keep taking pictures of his paws because they're so freaking cute.
But how your dogs like the cat?
They're not big fans. The Pomeranian does not mind the cat, but the other 2 are like, I hate that cat, and the cat's like,
too funny.
The cat has his claws, and he lets them know he's not a big fan of theirs either. So they're getting better. It takes a little time. Here's another one of my dogs.
Oh, okay, yeah, cute dog. It looks like a boxer mix.
It's a the claim is that it's a bulldog Labrador mix.
A bulldog Labrador mix. Okay. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try to
she
find a picture
stinks.
of my dog, but I can't find one. No.
Yeah. All right, throw up another question, Eddie, because nobody wants to hear about our dogs. We're just supposed to be talking about housing. We totally got off track there. Off the rails.
Hey, they asked it.
Yeah, they did ask. So all right, this kid. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while.
This kid, yeah.
This kid, he's back again. He or she is back again. This kid is back again. Do you think our real estate agents were to organize and repeat and market themselves as private buyer sellers only? No corporations would help focus on stabilizing the market. Do you think our real estate agents were to, if they were to organize and represent the market themselves as a private? So we used to have our own private MLSs. This is no joke. Every market had their own MLS. And in order to be a part of that MLS, you had to pay certain dues. We did not advertise our houses in a national website type thing. It was when this came about, a lot of real estate agents said, hey, this is a really bad idea. And other people were like, no, we need to get as many eyeballs on our listings as possible. This is a good idea. And slowly but surely, all these MLSs started feeding the information that we put into the MLS right into Zillow. We put it right into Redfin. We syndicated our MLSs, so all that information was on a national scale. If we went, I don't know how it's kind of like, how do you put the house back together? Like it would be impossible. I know that there's some markets that have done it, but I don't know how we undo it,
Impossible. Yeah. I mean, in my market, we had, it was syndicated to like all the websites except for Zillow for whatever reason. And then Zillow, if I had a listing, if agents had a listing in our area, they would actually go into Zillow and like manually enter it. And so you have most eyeballs on the listing, right? But now they had it maybe as of maybe 3 or 4 years ago or something. Now they have a direct link to our MLS. And so a lot of old time agents complain because back in the day when it wasn't syndicated, then the leads would go directly to the listing agent. So a person who was calling up, finding out, hey, what's going on with your house on Main Street? They would call the agent. Now they just go into Zillow, they check the box, and then they say, hey, give me some more information about this. And that just goes to agents who pay for leads on those websites.
Now, as an agent, as a realtor, you can on our MLS check the not syndicated. You can literally check it when it's not on there. But I don't know. I haven't had a seller in the last 5 years say, I don't want it on Zillow. I mean, they're like, put it as many places as you possibly can because I want to get it sold fast.
Yeah.
I can't blame the sellers for it. And I know that some of the older people that have been doing this for a while were a little miffed by that. But if that was your whole housing marketing plan, then you really needed to update that anyway.
Probably so.
Sorry, Peggy. It's time to update it. Question, just out of curiosity, why is Austin, Texas so appealing compared to other states? Is there no income tax? I know the answer to this.
I have the answer too, but go for it.
So maybe your answer is going to be different than mine. Big tech industries left California and moved to Austin, Texas. It's a lot less expensive for those industries because they were taxed in Texas. Their taxes are going to be a lot less. They were given more incentives to start up in Texas. A lot of people, the talent wise in the tech industry, many of them already lived in places like Austin, Texas. So it wasn't a big move for some of these big tech firms to move to Austin. And that's why it became more appealing. What do you say, my friend?
Yeah. So in Texas, there's no state income taxes. So people who make a lot of money can save a ton of money, especially if you live in New York or California. So that's kind of like the one of the big draws with moving to Texas. And then Austin, they tend to be a little bit more, I wouldn't call them a liberal town, but they're more liberal than the outskirts of the rest of the state. And anyone who's visited Austin, Texas, I mean, they have like awesome like restaurant and like music scene there. They have a lake
it's
there.
More artsy.
It's very artsy, and there's a lot of people who are like athletes there. My first time I took my bike there and did some bike races and stuff. So yeah, it's a very fun town.
Hold your ears, everybody. It's in the shop with Tom with the $5
with Tom.
Yeah, in the shop with Tom is a longtime subscriber to the channel. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. And I've been doing that to him since the beginning.
What kind of shop is Tom have, or what shop is he in? Do you know?
He does like tools and stuff,
Oh, cool.
Like,
right on.
Yeah. So, like he's like a tool channel. and you go through the next question here.
I think I should change my YouTube channel to be In the House with Jason Walter. That'd be cool.
Up in the house with Jason.
Up in the house with Jason Walter.
Up in the house.
Then they realize, oh, this guy's not cool. Never mind. I'm so
how about raise the roof with Jason?
Oh no, you just did that.
Bought a home in DFW, Texas, Mansfield. A couple of homes now are selling for $699.
Wow.
And a mile. We got mine in June for $500K. See, man, Texas is on fire with the housing market. It's on fire. Yeah, like all these areas have grown exponentially. I've had Matt Kelderman from the DFW area on this channel a lot, and he's like, they're making they don't even understand like how busy it is. They never expected it to be the way it is, and it not only was the demand for housing throughout the United States blown up everywhere. But it was because all these industries had moved out of California. It's because DFW is another area. It's Dallas Fort Worth area that has grown exponentially. Not as much as Austin though. Not as much as Austin.
I'm sure they have a pretty big healthy appreciation there. I bet though. And then Tesla just moved there too.
Well, you went blurry.
Yeah, I ducked out. And I'm back.
Yeah, you went blurry. All right, we got another question, my friend Eduardo. Eddie, where are you, Eddie?
How many people are on the live stream right now? I
390. I hope I have 390 like buttons. Everybody's better smash that like button.
Yeah,
you gotta smoosh it. You gotta smoosh it really hard. Okay.
Oh man, I love this question.
Are Zestimates close to the appraised value? Do houses often sell near their Zestimate? You start first, and
oh my gosh, I'm
going to get really passionate on this one.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a passionate answer here for it. So okay, so if I list a house for sale, so let me give you an example. I wish I had the exact numbers, but so I list a house for sale. Right before I list it, sometimes I go onto Zillow and look at like whatever the Zestimate is. So the Zestimate is just like a computer generated number for a value for any house, right? And so I went into the Zestimate, and it was like $100,000 less than we were going to list it for, something crazy like that. And then when I list the house, then after a couple of days, suddenly the Zestimate increases to like 1% less than our asking price. And so in my opinion, what happens is that when you list a house, if Zillow sees, oh my gosh, there's a ton of views on this property, it must be listed at a fair price. So we're going to just bump up the Zestimate close to what the real estate agent's asking price is, or the seller's asking price. And therefore, when the house actually sells, because Zillow knows that houses sell very closely to the asking price, then suddenly the Zestimate is so close to the asking price. But they only changed it when the house was listed for sale. If they went by their original Zestimate before the house was listed, they're way off. So I just can go on and on about that, but it's just a computer generated number. Zillow has never been inside your house, whether or not it has 100 cats living in there or not.
Okay. So a Zestimate, in my opinion, is like the McDonald's of hamburgers, like, it's good enough. It gets the job done. Because what it does is that, I don't know if you can see this. Hold on. Yeah, you can see it. So you see this circle. This is your house, like right here. Right here's your house. And then there's this circle. So all the houses that have been bought and sold in this circle, whether they're manufactured homes, whether they're tiny homes, it doesn't matter if you have a mansion, it takes all of those houses that have recently sold or is currently on the market, and it averages it out for your house, right? Which is completely inaccurate. In some cases, yeah, they're pretty close, but in a lot of cases, they're so off the money. Somebody that's always in here is Lawnmower. I believe he's the one that always does this, where he actually changes his square footage on his house all the time just to see what Zestimates come up, because he owns the house, so he's constantly changing just to see what Zillow says about how much his house is worth. And yeah, it's a joke. And they've even been sued several times for their Zestimates, and all the times that they've won, because they have a disclaimer on there that says this is a computer generated thing. It's like it's a joke.
It is a joke. The other thing too about it is that they'll give the same valuation. Let's just say the houses are right next door to each other. They'll give the same valuation for a house that has like no walls inside. It's a complete fixer versus one that has, the highest end appliances and everything's fully remodeled. They'll give the exact same estimate because Zillow's never been inside.
Yeah, it's just all they're doing is taking a circle and saying, okay, your house is worth this much because this is what sold in your area. They have no idea what's going on in your house.
Yeah. I would say though, if I'm not familiar with an area, like if I'm just looking at houses in wherever, any town USA, then I'll see like general housing, general prices of what the Zestimate is to get a general idea about how much home prices are, but that's pretty much it.
See, I was right. I manipulate my Zillow profile.
That's hilarious.
I know. I love Lawnmower.
That's awesome. So does it increase his home value, but like by a lot? Like it's like 1,000 square foot.
Whatever he decides.
10,000.
Yeah, he'll change how many rooms he has. He'll change the square footage.
Oh my gosh.
You just to see what it says.
YouTube video to make. That'd be hilarious.
Simple entertainment. Where do you think the safest place to buy a home that wouldn't bottom out like big cities when housing crashes? I don't think that this is the whole thing. Like, I used to believe before the government stepped in with forbearance that we were going to see a huge housing crash. And obviously the federal government did too, because there were so many people losing their jobs. At this point, with the market the way that it is, and the fact that we're not going to be increasing interest rates anytime soon, we're not going to see a crash. Like, we may see a flattening, but we're not going to see a crash. What is your opinion here, my friend Jason?
Yeah, I think I don't see a crash happening anytime soon either. So let's just say correction, right? So I think that there's no area that's safe from home prices decreasing, or that there's no city in the United States where home prices are going to be increasing indefinitely, right? At some point, we're having some sort of correction, but housing crash, I don't really see it happening. But I would just say be cognizant of that. If you're looking to buy a house, home prices could decrease next year. They could decrease it in 2 years. Who the heck knows? But I would be kind of like worried of that if someone's telling you, hey, this is an area where home prices never go down. Yeah, BS.
Well, here's the thing too. If you're like kind of researching, like, where do I want to be for the rest of my life? These are some things that you need to investigate. So look at any area's specific job market and how stable has it been. The second thing I would look at is, how much is the cost of living to live there? I mean, is the cost of living extremely high? Is that something you want to do? And then I would look up there are always crime statistics. And if you're worried about that, look up all of these things ahead of time before you even decide on a city. You can actually find an affordable house in Chicago, but the cost of living to live in Chicago is so extremely high. It's like, okay, yeah, great. I got an affordable house, but I can't afford to eat, so, it's, you're just going to have to investigate those things. Another thing that people don't think about is, see how many the healthcare in that area is, because I used to live in an area that you would think would have really good healthcare, but it actually had the pits. It was literally the worst. You had to wait forever just to get a scan, like, I have a tumor on my face. Well, we're going to wait another 6 months before we can get you in. I'm like, it's growing, like, it was the worst. And then I moved here and like, I can get in just like that. Like, they literally say, oh, go walk down the hall and they'll go ahead and give you a scan. My parents moved here and they were like, I can't believe the healthcare here. And no one would believe that, but that is one of those things to think about, especially if you have health issues.
Good point.
No problem. I'm actually kind of smart a little bit. In case you didn't know.
Might be more than a little bit.
Have you ever heard of Unison? It's a co-investment company planning to use them to draw equity to buy another property. Any thoughts? Appreciate it. I'm going to write this down. No, I haven't heard of this. Unison. And I'm going to
sounds like just a lender. It sounds like.
It sounds like a bridge loan company.
Or you plan to use them to draw equity to buy. It sounds like using a HELOC, a second loan, or a HELOC.
Well, I'll look into it. Unison, and let me do a little digging on it, my friend. And then next Sunday, I will go ahead and put this comment up on the screen, and we'll talk about it a little bit, my friend. What do you think?
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah,
I haven't heard of them either.
Yep. Kristina, can you shed some light on the media narrative that claims that millennials can't afford homes? Aren't millennials the ones who stand to gain the most from inheriting boomer wealth? So here's the thing. This is part of the, you're right, the narrative, because I did a whole video about this in the past. So baby boomers are not moving out of their house. Like, the millennials are according to many, are waiting for that generation to die off to be able to inherit their home. The problem that is occurring is that a lot of people that are in that baby boomer age have done these things called reverse mortgages. So at the end, if they are to pass away, most likely they won't. It depends on how it was structured. But in a lot of cases, the millennials will never get the house. It will belong to the bank itself because of these reverse mortgage type of plans. Millennials are the fastest growing amount of people that are purchasing homes, but the ones that are able to purchase a home are the ones that are doctors, lawyers, people, high tech industry. not the average person working that, like a hairdresser and a mailman trying to buy a house cannot purchase a house. A millennial at that age, at that with that income bracket, cannot find a house. They're barely making enough money to scrape by and then afford a home, or to be able to afford health insurance and all the other costs of living. Those are the millennials that are hurting the most, and they haven't come up with a good plan on getting those people into affordable housing options. The only thing they've come up with is affordable apartments, which is a bunch of bullpucky, in my opinion. So what do you say, my friend?
Yeah, I think you have a lot of good thing to say there. I agree with you on that. And the millennials that I'm seeing that are buying houses, that I personally help buy houses, they're attorneys, work in tech, for example. And so those people obviously have more income in order to pay for these higher home prices.
Yeah,
But
not
we're
only
seeing this
that,
big
they're
gap.
borrowing money from their parents too. So
Sure.
yeah, they're a lot of them are getting down payments from their parents in order to be able to purchase a house. It's crazy to me. I've been doing this for 14 years, and what a first-time home buyer is going through now is not the same thing as a first-time home buyer when I first started. Not even close. But most people were like, "Yeah, we've saved up a little nest egg, and we're gonna be able to." Even if these kids had saved up a nest egg, it's still just not enough. It's not enough because the parents don't want them to have to pay PMI, or the housing market is so expensive. They want them to be able to make that payment down so lower, so the parents are
right.
willing to give part of their retirement fund so they can have their kids can have a house, or and their grandkids can have a house. It's insanity what it's gone through.
Insanity.
What was the site you just read the Atlanta market information from? Oh, hold on, let me pull
I
that
think it
up.
was CNN business. Oh wait, Atlanta market. No. Let's
see.
Or was it Wall Street Journal?
Oh, here. I got
Washington
another
Post?
one.
One of those
I'm
two.
going to put one in the here's another one. I have another little link. I'm going to stick it into the here's another one. It's talking about the same thing.
Yeah, I think it was according to Redfin, actually, wasn't it? But it was not like
There's so
Redfin.
many. There's been lots of different companies that have, different news outlets have come up with the Atlanta market being so incredibly high. So, where do you think the safest place to buy a home that would be? We did that one, Eddie. Where you been? We just talked about that whole thing. I think Eddie's been drinking. Eddie, you been drinking? Well, listen, it's been an hour and 20 minutes. We've had over 411 people on this stream watching us today. Thank you so much. Everybody, go ahead and smoosh that like button for Jason, Walter, and I. And hopefully I can coax him on to the show again, because he's one of my favorite guests, and I know he's one of your favorite guests as well. If you're watching this stream on the live on the replay, please ask your questions in the comment section. I know Jason always goes in there and answers them. I answer as many as I can throughout the week. So just go ahead and put your questions in there, and we'll address that again. And I'm going to look into this unison. This is going to be on next week's live stream. We're going to be looking into how to pull out equity into one house to purchase another one. We're going to see if this company is on the up and up. So everybody say thank you to Jason. Make sure you put it in the comment section.
Thank you, Jason.
And see if we can get him on here again.
I'll definitely come back. I love doing this. This is so much fun.
Jason.
Kristina Smallhorn.
Oh, wait, there was one person that wants to ask a question right before we go. Here we go. Go ahead. You got to throw it in really quick. Throw in your question. Go ahead, Jason. It's Jay Stratton. Go ahead. Throw it in really quick before we go. I'm going to let you do it. It's going to happen. You got to type fast.
Was that question answered? Question mark?
Was that a question? I was late. Was that a question? It's I didn't know if you had another question. Sure. Whatever. Great insight, everybody. All right, everybody. You have a fantastic Sunday. Enjoy your day. Get some sunshine. We all need a little vitamin D since this pandemonium has started. Yeah. All right, y'all. Bye.
Thank you.